one of the things that our head coach, who he and I work closely together, putting things together for this upcoming year that he challenged me with, was really kind of putting together and writing out our philosophy as far as it goes for like the offensive side. So something different this year. He's been trying to get me for the last several years. He's really a defensive minded coach. And when he came into the program to help me out, I was comfortable with the defense. He asked me, what would you be interested in coaching? And so we split up responsibilities. I took the defense, he had the offense, and it's been like that for the last several years. And he asked me a couple of years back, would you like to switch? And I was a little hesitant. And so he was very gracious and kept that. But after the last couple of years, I felt more comfortable with just doing my own research and him actually helping me with that. And so we finally made the switch this year. And so I'm taking over the offense. So I'm really excited about that and I had thoughts. But he did, going back to what I was saying, challenge me to think through. And we want to do this for both sides of the basketball, but I'm in charge of the offense. So what you see here up here on the screen is really what I've come up with as far as our offensive philosophy. You're going to see it's not like 20 slides long or anything like that. It's very simple and very basic. And that was what I was, as a teacher, hoping to do, was kind of, really narrow things down and make it as simple as possible, easy to understand, and really hit the highlights. I've spent a ton of time the last 2 years really thinking about conceptual offense. I think you can see that in the videos that I've been sending to you. That will end. We're not always going to talk just about conceptual offense in the newsletter, but that was a series that I put together with the help of a school down in South Carolina here. But I've been thinking a lot about half-court offense, but was challenged the last about 4 or 5 months about thinking more about just offense in general. And typically we think of transition offense to offense, and I don't want those to be two separate segments. I really want our players to think of it as, when we get the ball, we're just on offense. And even though I want them to be thinking about it that way, I know that it's kind of broken down. But how can I, as a coach, get them to be thinking about transitioning to the other end, transitioning seamlessly into our half-court conceptual offense, and then hopefully scoring or getting a rebound and getting opportunity to go through all of that again. So really what you're going to see here is the overall concept of what we're trying to do, and then what it looks like once our team gets the basketball from an offensive, we get a defensive rebound. We're now transitioning into offense, getting down the court, and then hopefully transitioning seamlessly into our half-court offense if we don't score in transition. So I will say that, I say this all the time. I haven't come up with anything on my own. It is basically things that I've stolen from different people. Coach Mike Neighbors, who I'm sure a lot of you have either heard before or seen some of his stuff. I had the opportunity to interview him for my podcast, and hopefully we'll be posting that probably in the early fall here. But just the chance to talk with him about things, he was super helpful. Watching some of his clinics, his functionally fast offense, here's something of value to you if you haven't already seen it, but a presentation that he did, I believe it was the one that he did during the pandemic, is on CoachTube for free. And you can go, and he gives away a ton of things. He gives away their slides, what they share with their players, breakdowns of drills. He gives terminology, like he gives it all away. And so I used a lot of that. And then, like I said, the opportunity to talk with him for the podcast and a little bit more, is really where I've gotten a lot of this. And so let me just, without further ado, just go ahead and start showing it to you. I would really challenge you to think through this for your team. It's one thing for you to have this in your head. It's another thing to have to sit down and write it out and actually think through, like, why are we doing what we're doing? And you will see, again, principles that don't just apply to our half court, but really apply to all of it. And again, I didn't want to segment, like, we're in transition. Okay, now we stop. That didn't work for us to score. Okay, let's go ahead and start something new. I want them playing seamlessly and quickly, and I want them playing, as the first thing says, or I want them playing fast. Every coach says they want their team playing fast, but if you were to actually analyze what you're doing, a lot of times when you're segmenting and stopping, and that's taking seconds off the clock. And especially for someone who, for me at least, someone who's coaching in a shot clock system, in a shot clock league, which I know a lot of you, potentially summer leagues, some of your summer leagues use shot clocks. Some of your states are going to be bringing in shot clocks. It really does change things. And once you get that shot clock, it really allows you to put some very cemented segments into your team, as far as we want to score within the first 7 seconds or whatever. And so even those stats have really changed my thinking about things. You can see Coach Neighbors talks about this, but you can see basically about every 6 to 8 seconds, your field goal percentage drops significantly the further you get into the shot clock. And I think most coaches know that. They think, well, scoring towards the beginning is easier than scoring late. But I would encourage you to actually track that maybe. Again, it's a little bit harder if you don't have a shot clock, if you don't play in a shot clock league. But, really look at those segments, those 8-second segments. And I think what you're going to find is when we score early, our shot percentage is significantly higher than when we're scoring late. So playing fast isn't just because it's fun, but playing fast actually allows you to score better. And so that's what I want us to do this year with our program. And so, playing fast, playing decisive, that element of decision making, I want them to know what they're looking for. I want them to be looking for the advantages, those small advantages, creating those big advantages, and giving ourselves the opportunity to score as quickly as possible. So I'm more than happy to send you this presentation. You can take it and use it for your own if you want to, but these are just some of the thoughts. And, I'm still thinking through this, so this isn't everything. If you have any thoughts about this, and I would love to hear them. Like I said, this is my first time really thinking through it, but I won't read I know people get really annoyed when you just read slides, so well, at least I do. So I won't read slides. Part of that system, that transition offense system, we have positions on the floor. We play positionless, but there are responsibilities based off of really what you are on the floor that will determine. So, we are positionless. You're not necessarily, but you're running down into positions. And so we've taken the terms very similar to the ones that he's used. The guys that sprint to the corner, I call those the snipers. The kids he calls them the lock, but I like the snipers because the kids think that's really cool. And so they run down the floor faster and they get to those spots. They think they get to be a sniper and shoot threes. The racker is the guy with the ball that brings the ball up the floor. Rabbit is your big who runs to the front of the rim. And then your trail guy, your dragon, obviously drag screens, kind of that idea. And I'll show you kind of eventually what that looks like there. But, this was just an opportunity for us to show them what that looks like. We actually diagrammed it out for them. So you can see there your snipers running to the corners, your racker is the one bringing the ball up, your rabbits run to the front of the rim, and your dragon's the last player down the floor. Splitting the court up into different zones so that, again, they know what we're doing as we're bringing the ball up the floor. And again, I want to be I'm drilling this from the very first day. I don't want them to be thinking a lot about this as the season goes along, but I want them to know what's happening in those different zones so that they can make the right reads. It's about decision making. And you can say, well, that's giving them a lot of things to think about. That's going to slow them down. I think it is going to slow them down, especially at the beginning. But if I'm drilling this from the beginning and we're doing this every practice to start, it's not going to be long, but we're going to do this every practice. We're going to talk about these things regularly. I do feel like it's going to be something that's going to build their basketball IQ, and in the long run, really do make us better decision makers, create better space on the floor for us, create better scoring opportunities. So these different zones here, you've got the outlet zone where they're getting the ball off the floor, making a decision in the decision zone, and then that last action zone on the far right. We're trying to make an action, whether that's to shoot, create space, go into one of our actions. If we don't have an advantage and we're not able to score right away, to naturally start right away into our half court conceptual offense. So those are the different zones there. If you have any questions about that, you can feel free to reach out to me about that. So, I want them to be basically, this slide is, I want them to go through a mental checklist. When we get the ball in that outlet zone, everybody turns and we are sprinting down the floor to our spots. And as we're sprinting down that floor, the guy that has the ball, the racker there, he's deciding like, hey, can I get to the basket and rack it and score? If he can't, kind of 1B is, can I throw it over the top to that rabbit who's running ahead over the top? Maybe they're the first one down the floor. If that's not possible, I'm throwing it straight up the sideline, up the street for the sniper to shoot it. If that's not open, then I'm going across up the street there. If that's not open, then I'm hitting the drag screen, and we're playing off the drag screen. So it really is, there's at the bottom there, you can see we get the ball, we're in transition, we're sprinting, we're racing to space, we're going through an action, and the action will be based off of what the defense gives us. That's where your decision making is. If that's not there, we're not pulling it out, but we're flowing right naturally into our 4 out, 1 in. And if there's nothing there, or if, if a shot goes up, maybe if there's nothing there, we might have to call play at the very end, like if it's the end of a shot clock or something like that. But I want to get, most of the time I found that in our conceptual flow offense, you end up with a shot. Rebounding, which is a whole nother thing that we can talk about maybe sometime, but I'm toying with the idea of the tagging up with five rebounders. By the way, if you haven't done much research on that, the tagging up doesn't mean that 5 guys just run at the front of the rim. I think a lot of coaches, when they hear that, they think, you're just tagging somebody, but then you're sprinting at the rim and then you get beat in transition. Like, that's not how it works at all. I've actually got a podcast coming out from Coach Brent Tipton, who was on the show before, who will talk about that and describe that. So if you're interested in that, I can probably give you early access to that as well. But, again, I want them to go through a checklist so they know exactly what they're doing. And so all of this will determine even how we practice. And we're going to talk about, what we're looking for, the individual skills that you have to be able to have. Everything we do on offense will then determine what happens in our individual workouts. Our workouts are a little bit different. I know that most high schools, like you guys, have practice times and that's it. We have practice times, but that's where we do 5-on-5 stuff, team stuff. Individual workouts where I've got 1 kid or maybe up to 4 kids. In those 1 to 4 man workouts, they're going to be working on these things. They're going to have to know, they're going to have to, be able to do skill work, certain things, but then they're also going to have to develop decision making and whatnot in those individual workouts as well. And these are just some, there's a video of the big advantages, what that looks like. I got a lot of freshmen coming in, so I wanted to know what that looks like. This is our half court terminology. I think terminology is super important. So I've got a slide in here for this, what it looks like for our 5 out. You can do this. If you don't want to do 4 out, 1 in, that's fine. There's 5 out that you can do with this. If you're a 5 out, like ball screen type, I know that's super popular right now, but if you're interested in that, it looks a little bit different than this, but you can have the same idea with what I'm already doing. Here's all of our half court stuff, just actions like fingers and fan and throwing it down and then cutting across. The individual skills, these are the finishes that we have. I've posted these a lot, but if you're interested in the finishes, I can send this to you. This is, my buddy Randy Sherman, Radius Athletics. I have a couple videos now that have just our finishes. I'm more than happy to share those. If you want those, you can let me know about that. And then here is the player development slide that I was talking about. So this is my forwards, what they're going to be working on in their individual workouts. So whether I'm running the workout or one of our other coaches are running the workout, they will know exactly the kinds of things that they need to be working on. I don't care what drills or small-sided games or whatever they use to teach these, but our guys better be able to do these things. And I feel like that this will also help when a player comes into me and says, Coach, why am I not playing? I'm not going to just, for coaches, we try to be nice, but at the end of the day, we know like, well, you're not good at this. Well, I can tell him now, well, you can't screen and roll, so I can't put you in this position to be able to screen and roll. Or, Craig does all these things about 2 times better than you. Why would I play you over this guy? So he's going to be able to know exactly what he needs to do. That's for the forwards. I haven't finished the guards one yet. They're going to need to do more than sprint up the floor, but I just haven't gotten to that one yet. So like I said, this will determine everything that they need to know, whether it's on an individual basis, a team basis. It will impact and influence what we do in our workouts, in our drill work, in our small-sided games. It will impact everything. So, again, I would just encourage you to kind of think through that. If you haven't written out, it does take time. I know, we don't necessarily always have a lot of time to do that, but it has allowed me to kind of fill in holes and think about how I could teach things better to our players. And I may be speaking as a fool because I haven't gone through it yet. So all of this could stink. It could just be all theoretical, but I really do think that it's going to help. And I'm excited to see what it's going to do for us this year. So if you have any questions about any of that, you can feel free to shoot me an email or reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to talk with you about it or talk further about this. If you want to do this again next month and talk about any of these things, I'll be more than happy to do that. So this is when I would typically, it's just me and Coach LeBron today, so I'll bring him in here and we'll just talk about whatever. But this is where I would typically have you guys jump in and talk, and we can talk about whatever. It can be about this, or it can be about other things that you have if you just want to talk to other coaches, get other people's opinions about things. But again, appreciate each of you, and looking forward to getting to know you a little bit better and talking with you about stuff.